That was like a shirt that I own, so I saw your screen and I thought it was me. It was real, and I was like, what? I'm not wearing that shirt.
Oh no, it's backwards.
That's okay. I think it shows the right way.
It shows backwards on your screen, and
then
usually it flips when it goes out into the world.
Hey.
Ontario together.
You want to?
Oh, sure,
Okay.
sure. Pat and I, I basically have been absolved of all work-related tasks for the Ontario electorate recently fired me. So Pat and I have been discussing some interesting ways that we could help support the organizing group and support projects. And this was an idea that we've kind of been bumping back and forth for the last kind of week and a half or so. And yeah, we just kind of wanted more of an FYI, kind of walk you guys through what we're thinking as a project that can support organizers and other projects.
This would be like a new project at Civic Tech?
Yeah,
okay.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay, and you're presenting it here rather than at Civic Tech because
partially
you want to get us involved in your project?
No.
Concerns something that we've been talking about a lot.
Yeah, partially as an FYI.
Okay.
But partially because we just want to make sure that we're not stepping on any toes to some extent.
Okay.
So like it could be seen that like the organizers, one of their primary objectives, if I understood this correctly, is to support other projects as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's, and that we think this is going to be fun and exciting, but we just kind of want to make sure that others see it in the same light as us.
Sure.
So yeah. So we kind of came up with 5 quick little takeaways. So as a tenant of open communities, it generally seems to be the case that we like it when funding decisions are open and accessible and viewable. So that seemed to kind of be one tenet, and that right now that doesn't seem to be quite the case here. So just as a microcosm, today's meeting, we hummed and hawed around financial decisions for a good while, and I bet you that part of that reluctance to kind of move forward on some of those things is we want all of our decisions to be open and transparent and accessible, and like don't necessarily feel comfortable moving forward on things without that sort of level of buy-in.
Yeah. No one seems, like I would say, no one seems to know who's in charge of it or who has the authority to spend that.
Yeah, what is quorum?
Huh?
Yeah.
What is quorum?
Yeah.
Great questions. Yeah. So essentially, we kind of flagged that as a bit of a problem. A takeaway as a solution is we think that there are some shared platforms that we'd like to walk through that we think we could.
Like OpenCollective.
Exactly, OpenCollective. That we can. Pat has been chatting with others extensively on this, I understand. That we think that we can kind of use to help resolve some of those issues. We were kind of brainstorming back for point 3 there that projects might be coming up against some barriers when it comes to going deeper or wider, respectively, depending on which they're interested in, without some injections of cash. And that fundraising could be an interesting thing to explore with this project if after we've crossed off some of the initial steps, and just discussing how funding can be distributed and things like that, and coming up with some decisions and check back points around that. So those are kind of the quick overarching takeaways. So we kind of already briefly hit on this, that there are some values of open communities that I think we can agree, at least in this room, that should occur when funding decisions are happening, and that right now money isn't necessarily spent in our funding decisions don't always meet these criteria. So
funding decisions, yeah. There aren't
any, yeah.
Right?
I mean, but like, even be it small things like
buying the dongle. We had to, we had to talk about for 25 minutes.
You can see my little examples of here. They're not super.
Well, yeah, like you bought
things,
name tags. I just went and bought them. I was like, I don't know how it works here.
So
here's $30 worth of name tags. Have fun.
Yeah. So basically, we wanted to add a bit more transparency to that. You've already kind of hit on it. We're trying to set up as a project. We're going to do an OpenCollective thing.
Mhm.
We're basically, set it up, link it to a bank account. You take a photo of it, of your receipts. You kind of submit it, just as a way to make sure that transactions are much more transparent and online and viewable, and the community at large can kind of log in and see what's happening, see what money is available, and hopefully this is a project that we see servicing not just the organizing team, but also other projects. So let's say, Alex goes out into the world and sets up his project, and they want to meet like Adri's team on Monday nights. There could be an avenue or a pathway that I know, right?
Let's organizers.
Let's organize it.
Don't meet on Mondays. Meet on Mondays, we won't fund them.
There you go. A principle. I like it. But yeah, let's say he meets on Wednesdays, and he wants to order pizza for his group. Is there a pathway there to help cover that? How does that funding happen?
That's a policy.
And that to us is something that we're interested in, not just understanding and exploring some more, but helping to build the infrastructure to support structures like that.
Yeah.
So that if Budgetpedia wanted to, go off and do something, that there's a lot of policy decisions that kind of have to come back and be thought through, but that the infrastructure is in place that they could kind of snap their fingers once that policy decision is arrived at, and it's just good to go.
Yeah, and this is really good because my impression is that code. Like, I'm really glad you're doing this. Like, because my impression is Code Across keeps bringing in more money, and we keep getting a larger and larger pile of it. And we spent, probably $1,500 on pizza in the last month, and $20 on a dongle, and I don't know what else we've been money on.
Yeah.
And
So many more experiments to be run.
Yeah.
Which we should be, if we're not for profit, which we're not really, but we should be spending the money, using the money that we take in to support whatever it is that the organization's here for. So yes, this is great.
Just doing backup napkin math, like you said there was 14 before, and you said there's another 10 as a result of that.
No, I think there was 8 before Code Across, and there might be 14 now, and that's probably
Yeah.
That
So
sounds good.
You definitely want to come up with some way. There's also a cushion room, and probably 10 in the bank sounds like always a good cushion. You probably don't want to go and eat that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You should start coming up with extra ways to support the community now that you have the capacity.
Yeah.
I think whenever someone's spending money too, it's a little bit of energy. It's like you're kind of investing some time in trying something normally, if you're spending money in a new way. So not necessarily, but it's just extra way to give more energy.
So that's kind of this. So that's the initial thought.
So it's a project that supports other projects and also the project that is the organizing committee. Yeah, the organizing.
In OpenCollective, all receipts are public to everybody.
No, only to the collective, to the core group that has the thumbs up, thumbs down on expenses.
Okay.
So that's a very a vetted group of people.
Because you were saying it makes it open to the community. So
you could see once accepted and approved, the transactions are posted.
Yeah, so basically it shows up without, it kind of shows the status.
Without that.
Do you see the receipt?
No.
Definitely. So if I'm random person, I can just see that there was a
category, see the status it's in.
Okay.
Of $97 for whatever. But you wouldn't be able to see the actual receipt.
Okay, good. Okay.
So there's, I guess, some anonymity there. So that's kind of one portion. The next is we're actually interested in. I never actually did find that image back on. I really just deleted that.
It's great. It's great. I just
we were took orders. Oh boy. Anyways, one of the things that we're interested in trying out, and it seems we've had a few recent examples of this in civic tech, of money being injected to projects, and projects doing well with that, doing not well with that, but just exploring that a bit and kind of figuring that through. So, but I probably am not speaking out of turn when I say that all of those experiments, the money definitely increases sustainability of the project, or seems to, at least from an outside perspective, in terms of how to do it. So
I want to recognize there's like causality. That's not like, is there just something about the projects that like have a certain something where they go seeking money? There might be that. Like, so the experiment is like,
which women in color,
maybe money.
Right? They went out and sought money.
Yeah, and I think, well, Bike Space was funded from the beginning. Law and Design, I'm not sure what they got funding. They got funding from the beginning, or somehow they got a symbiotic relationship.
I think that was Avery. Like, I think he kind of, did a similar thing to Women of Color.
Yeah.
That he, it was very early on in its trajectory. But
there's like a real power in offering like a blessed path, like to projects, like let it like make it be known that there's like a thing you can sign up for that allows you to hold money, and it kind of like tweak people's brains towards thinking about, oh, how does this play into what I'm doing? Like, what's the path here?
Like even for Budgetpedia, like I remember, I don't know if you guys ever did incorporate or not. I remember for months you guys were discussing, and I imagine, I don't know all the drivers of that decision, but I imagine some of them revolved around, can we hold money or not?
Can we hold money? Can we get any kind of relationship with can we have any kind of relationship with, as an official organization, with anyone else?
Yeah.
Any kind of official standing. Because if you're just like a group of folks, it's like when you talked about getting official vendor status, right? And you have to be incorporated to get official vendor status. If you're just a bunch of friends, well, thanks, go away.
Yeah.
Anything legal, you have to be a person.
So that's something that this might help alleviate, or at least be there as a venue. You wouldn't necessarily be able to contract things still as Budgetpedia, but you could create your own funding relationships. We could, we envision and think it would be interesting to start going out and doing some fundraising to try and inject some more money into the system, and kind of as a part of that, come up with explore different options for how to kind of inject that into the system, and make that as a source, make that available to projects in different ways. Be it on the light end where Law and Design wants to meet on Mondays. Maybe Mondays are banned, but every other day of the week, if they want to meet, they're allowed to draw on some subset. There's a monthly allowance for that project or something they could use to help book space. Even booking space in Toronto is annoying. And I remember from Democracy Kit, it was touch and go sometimes. And we met at the CSI. We met sometimes in Chris's little cramped office. We kind of moved around a bit, and like even if it's just like, I imagine in the fledgling days of that, if it was hey, Democracy Kit, here's your $300 that you can go whole hog on every month, and we might have just used it to book office space or something for those meets in between meetings.
So this is like, here's almost, I'm using a crude example, but make civic tech into the United Way of
It is being evoked by my hand. Do they use that image? See, I should have inserted the image.
But like, no, United Way basically is like, it's like, it's a way for people to give money and then they redistribute it.
I mean, I think
it's room for many experiments. And some of those are just projects, and like the realm of the experiment is just the project, and like, oh, we can go get money and hold money now. But it could also be like groups, potentially like something that we'd be interested in doing, actually, like finding like large bits of money to like a little project that like gives out grants, that like, or maybe someone else wants to like get, basically like just like the experiments could not just be within the project space, but in like, people can experiment with different forms of holding money, by like creating a collective that like is working in a certain way, distributing money, or like soliciting money in certain ways. Like little like fundraising experiments. Like, I think that us as the people who are like kickstarting the creation of the the entity, the bank account, aren't necessarily the only ones who might engage in funding experiments.
Okay, so maybe you're going to address this, in which case, just tell me to shut up. But are you talking about changing the status of Civic Tech so we have a bank account? Or are you talking about Civic Tech getting its own whatever it's called, collective
We're
funding thing?
essentially all we're talking about is running a project under Civic Tech that would have a bank account. So
an official bank account.
Yeah.
With a bank.
Yes.
Yeah, and like
So
the legal.
And
so then you have to incorporate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So-
then like essentially making that available to projects and
as a support system.
And why are we doing this rather than setting up a structure and using the Code for Canada structure we have now? Like why do we need a separate entity with a separate like bank account?
it's a matter of I think it's a big ask to get. Like we can probably be a little bit. The thought is, my personal feelings is we can be more experimental when like our sole mission is like supporting projects in the community, and there's not all the work. Like when money moves, it's like there's a lot to be concerned about there, and you can the level of rigor in like controlling all those movements is like something that maybe is would be harder to like pitch to Code for Canada.
So then what's the relationship between this organization and Civic Tech?
It's just a project.
It would be a project within.
So you're just, so you basically want to, okay. So your first part and your second part are meshing, and maybe give me a second here. So Civic Tech keeps its money with Code for Canada, and you want to set up a separate project.
Gotcha.
That's
no, it would be that like if the organizers want to make use of what this project is offering, what the like, entity bank account is it makes available, it would be like, hey, we can actually like put our money into, we can exercise this ecosystem that is being offered to all projects. We can put our own money, take it from Code for Canada and put it into something where it's actually like where OpenCollective actually can mediate the money. It's like right now it's kind of just this like thing that we're using is like tracking, but it's not connected to a bank account. It's not a true reflection of.
Quick question here. So in terms of like holding funds, say that the organizing team or some other project decides to use the infrastructure offered by the project, that would mean transferring the assets into the holdings of this specific project for use under that OpenCollective project.
Not for like the organizing group would still hold all its money and like still make the decisions. Like it's not giving the money. The decisions are not made. Decision for that amount that you put in is still like the group's decision to make. There's some overlap, like
sorry.
Yeah, no. And so then how would that work with like? I'm sorry, maybe it's just that I'm not as clear on the context for how funds are held currently, or like how they get dispersed currently. But what does like what's the change from the current structure in order to make this happen? In terms of where the assets like are held / like where they're legally, where they're legally stored, I guess.
It would be like this is not a decision about like, oh, are we moving all the money into this entity, this project's thing? Like I personally hope that we do exercise like this thing that we're offering to the project space, that we kind of also as the organizing group exercise it and kind of like make this thing work for us so it can work better for everyone. But it would be just switching money, like a transfer into the bank account of this entity, like a no cost, like just bank to bank, and then like, and then now the OpenCollective, the website, the platform would be tied to this account and would actually like money could move in and out based on the actions that happen on the site.
So this is basically setting up what like an OpenCollective company, like PO, what's it, PO?
Like a nonprofit host, connecting it to.
So this is what like PO was talking about.
Yeah.
So setting up one of those for Canada.
For
Canada, or for the specific idea of funding civic tech projects.
For us, I mean, I think we're excited about potentially offering it to like more groups of people, but like definitely this is the community that like where there's the most possibility. It seems like previous existing energy.
And so, what happens if let's say Civic Tech takes $15,000, moves it over to this group. In this group, goes bankrupt, stops. Like the two of you find other things to do. You're running it, find other things to do, and it kind of goes. And no one's actively managing anymore. What happens to that money?
So yes, that's actually a really easy one to do. So whenever you file your letters of like an incorporation papers, you have clauses in it. So you can very easily write, if C4C still exists, bump it back over there. Else if, and then you can write in extra clauses within. It's the simplest one probably. But yes, that is probably
like certain there's fiduciary. Like I don't know.
When you're a charity, you can only go to another registered charity. But for nonprofits, there's no such thing.
Yeah, like there's fiduciary. Like if you're
it's even more complicated for charities. Yeah.
Like if you're in an investment fund, you have to have there's specific ways they have it structured so that you can't touch investor money to run the organization, right? So, anyways, that's just like one of the things that is a like liability concern. And if you have no money, maybe you don't care to start out with, but if you do have money, then you start caring.
And I think no matter what, and I think actually in the little sample that I sent you, I had drafted a clause that on dissolution it bounced back to C4C, just as a like strict safety feature that to me made the most sense.
Okay. And so the idea then is that if I'm a project and I want to start funding things, I would just set up my own OpenCollective account with your project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not so much charitable giving to other projects as it is.
Well, I'd hope that some like I hope it could be.
Okay.
But in its current machinations, no, it wouldn't have to. In its current machinations, we will start with the big round zero number. So it's not like there's a lot of creative things. There aren't many creative ways to divide zero.
Yeah.
So
the idea is you would start being.
I think there's extra there's a beautiful array of things that we can explore after we figured out how to get some money into this object.
Yeah.
And I think that's the last bit that we want to explore a bit is yeah. I don't know what kind of thing is
No, I'll wait.
Yeah, I think the last this final little bit is kind of what we want to explore, and a part of that will be the onus will be on us through this project to hunt down and create a bit of a bank account to play with. So, like in my mind, there won't be a lot to do at first, but we can kind of start pre-construct some sample models of funding. So, there are likely ways to make this a positive force, and there are likely ways to make it a negative force.
Money, I would say money in general. That is like.
So we want to kind of construct some sample models of how projects could use injections of cash for a state where we hopefully are successful doing some fundraising and getting some money into an account that we could then, through this OpenCollective sort of project, utilize. And that's sort of the logic.
I'd say the main, it's that this is like an attempt to create a thing that serves small groups of people holding money. The organizers being one of those. But we'll also be, now that there's if there's larger interest, like if this entity, and right now Sebastian and I, and likely any others who are interested, if we run it like a civic tech project, there might be interest in someone like, we have a bank account now, go out to target specific sponsors and get a chunk of money that maybe this, as an experiment, maybe we'll give out grants to groups, so you can transfer money in between. There's no extra money right away, but it's now a place to catch money and
Well, this project would have its own money, right? Because I remember what Pia was saying is they take a 30% or whatever
everything that's processed through.
They take a chunk.
I think they take they take 5% of the process.
5% when they process things on the site. It's not just everything that goes into the bank account that gets charged. And so that tends to be the small recurring monthly donations that get processed through the site, which that's a new
a Visa
income
card
stream that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
A Visa card processing fee is almost that. right?
Yeah.
Like you can beat 5% for sure.
2.5.
Yeah.
2.5 to 5,
3,
depending on.
yeah. So like you're not losing tons of efficiency there. And then if you were ever getting big donations, you just don't do them as Visa transactions. Like you do them as like here's a check.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my mind, yeah. So I see what you mean though. But you wouldn't be losing. Like you're getting.
No, I was thinking that's actually how you would make money. One of the ways you make money as an organization is because like what's the sustainability of this organization? Begging for money or skimming a percentage off the transactions?
Hopefully begging for money would be my thought. But that would be again something we have.
It can.
Like, I'm not sure we had something we haven't even fully had. But in
like
my mind.
Because you would need some level of sustainability in terms of its own financing. And if that's like
you would.
skimming a percentage, that's fine.
And maybe there's some that has to be built in.
Yeah.
Like you have to pick up your books. Right?
Yeah.
So like
like that was Budgetpedia's problem. It's like, where the hell are you going to get your money?
Yeah.
Like there's no understanding of like there was like lots of ideas on how to spend money and no idea on how to get it. So like the organization needs to be sustainable.
There's been, I think like there's certain, I think there's certain people who have like a few like people having different conversations who I've heard some of them, but I'm sure I haven't heard all of them of like people like in government or institutions who like are eager to like they want to support projects. There's just no clear way, and like there's no clear way for projects to even ask for that. That's not like onerous because it would involve incorporation. So it's like kind of like not able to meet, but there are groups that have been expressed interest in the past and probably will in the future of like supporting projects. And now this is just a thing that's in like the community, the community back pocket. Like, oh, there's a thing that can accept money now.
And I mean, even though this is certainly beyond the scope of this conversation, that VOR vendor of record conversation that we had before, like, there was no, like there are many hurdles that were kind of insurmountable before that you could draft little pathways around, and this is something that we kind of want to play with a little bit and think, and just kind of want to present it here as a way to say, hopefully we can kind of get your blessing as we kind of go forth and try this project out.
So, I guess like recording, so like hope to send it around to others too, because not everyone who has stake in this is like in the room.
Well, get to hear all my questions.
That's great. You're like.
So I think as a project, this is like fabulous and like good job. I think this is something that is probably really beneficial to a lot of projects in helping them at least get off the ground when they're thinking about, oh, maybe I want to start doing something that involves money. How do I do that easily? That would be a big boon. I don't think Civic Tech does enough to support projects and project growth, and this would be a great way to do that. The one thing that's like making me a little queasy is that it feels like this is something different from Civic Tech, and it's trying to do Civic Tech's job for it. It's like this like planned secret leveraged buyout of the Civic Tech.
Maybe that's sorry.
And it's almost like should Civic Tech incorporate in this way? And that's not a question you can answer now. Right.
Yeah.
But and I don't understand the whole history of why we're this weird like floating organization with Code for Canada as the incorporated thing. But this is. I also don't understand if this is going to like put you in conflict with Code for Canada, but that's another question.
And just to answer that for the video, like the conversations that I've had just like with Kelly, and even Gabe has expressed like when Pia was first coming down, like there's not. I was really concerned that we were stepping on the toes of Code for Canada and its aspirations for like a way of engaging and supporting projects. And at least last I heard updates, my impression was that no, that's not the case. Like it's not conflicting with the way that they are planning like immediately to support projects.
Okay.
And just to speak maybe briefly to the like, secret leveraged buyout. Like I think from PatCon and my conversations, it's more we see and feel a perceived need for this, and we weren't sure. Like, it's a big corporate, right? And there's a lot of questions you have to answer, and there's a lot of internal discussion points that need to be had, and that was something that neither of us could have on behalf of the organizing team, and would take a long time to do. And we kind of figured this can be a great, like, proof of concept. Like, will this work? Like, like there's so many other things that so many other question marks out there. And it's like, why not just do this as a project, get that done, and see if we can answer some of those questions, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, because like, this could very easily just take over civic tech, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that might be a good solution.
I feel like I will. I mean,
I'm exaggerating.
But yeah, like it could become I think done in a certain way, it could become like an important force in it.
Yeah.
But I definitely like. I think I have my I have my own personal biases towards like really favoring a service-oriented like economy of like, or an ecology of like not any one thing trying to do all of everything in the community. And like, so it seems like something to like, oh, holding money is really hard and involves a lot of like structure that can distort the way things work. Like, it's not like, oh, this is a power play. It's very much like, there's no need to like put this all in. Like, this can be just a service like that's offered, like helping everyone hold money and helping like the organizers, just like other projects hold money. And there's no special, I almost see it as a perk that there's no special relationship with the project that is organizing civic tech. It's like actually like experiencing the same benefits and pains that maybe exist at first that projects feel when engaging with like this service that's like being offered. Yeah.
Good job.
If that makes sense.
No, this is good. This is good. And like, I'm reading these questions, and they probably get answered as you go. But those are my. I think it's good, and it's needed, and it's probably a project that I want to be involved with.
Yeah.
Or you may not want to be involved.
No. I really, I hope it's like. I'm so sorry that, but I hope there's engagement and ownership of like this thing, and it's not just like us coming in and being like, oh, this is how we think it could work.
Yeah.
And just because I know people in the room had a fair shot at us, I don't know if folks in the Hangout.
I think we didn't actually share the Hangout. It's just to have it for some posterity.
No, sorry, I just meant we also have a.
I just didn't want to interrupt.
Oh yeah. Sorry, there's multiple recordings, and I forgot where you get.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be bold and ask if everyone could email. I'll provide the email for everyone, the accessibility committee at TTC, and just ask them to add more bus routes on the lake shore, and also just revise their draconian Wheel-Trans suspension policies. If you can do it anonymously, you can write a letter, but I'll provide the email and I'd be very grateful.
Sure. So yeah, I think that's noted. I think I meant more in reference to this.
Just to stay on agenda, Mariko, like, do you have any thoughts on like the conversation / presentation?
Yeah.
I don't really understand enough to ask questions, but I guess what I would say is maybe just provide, in addition to various criteria, perhaps just provide a randomly selected project to fund.
I think that's a sort of experiment that I think we're interested in like pursuing. Like, I think we kind of threw a few out there, and that's like another one that we didn't think of before. But I think those I think we're excited to like
to experiment
have more of those sorts of things.
Yeah, and we'll kind of draft back with you, and we mentioned kind of in the last slide there. We'll be having some conversations in the CCTO finances section, and we'll just kind of be exploring through some of this there. So if people want to weigh in, is it random? Is it like this? Is it like that? That's something we imagine will be an ongoing conversation for this project, but we want to open others.
So we won't. So you guys are not gonna pitch it at Civic Tech?
No, we'll be there.
Yeah. I think I don't know if it'll be like this week.
No.
But I certainly am hoping that it's like a regular weekly project pitch.
Okay. And if so, could I ask that if you guys are able to meet somewhere, somewhere sort of east central, like outside of CTTO night, then I'd be on board to
Cool.
give any feedback and assistance.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Okay,
All right.
So I think we'll wrap up our little part of the presentation and then flip it back over to Chris for agenda stuff.
We're done.
We're done.
All right. So I wish you guys a good night then.
Yeah.